I think I secretly wish I was an explorer or an archaeologist. I'm just really curious about a lot of things, particularly old, weathered things that have a history, particularly like printed or written materials, things on paper. I really like old manuals. They always have kind of funny diagrams and illustrations. No matter who you are, what your socioeconomic or your educational background, you can get a book that will tell you how to do really anything. So they're like windows, really, into what we want to do, what we wish we could do, what our hopes, our aspirations, how we want to fit in, how to be accepted. And that's really what's at the heart of all the books that I used in the work that I created for my recent solo show, How to Be. In 2021, author Jess McHugh wrote the book Americanon, an unexpected U.S. history in 13 best-selling books. Books like Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, Emily Post's Blue Book of Etiquette, and even All You Ever Wanted to Know About Sex, but Were Afraid to Ask. These books shaped us as a group of people, so I spent a lot of time thinking about the form I wanted these pieces to take. I really like looking to textiles for inspiration. Sometimes it's the patterns, the repetition. Sometimes it's more literal, like stitching, or looking for ways to make marks that feel like stitching. I also, for these works, thought about vessels. Vessels hold ideas. And one of the interesting things about both of those, textiles and vessels, is that historically they had a utilitarian function. They were made by women, used by women in the household, which I would argue is part of the reason why we don't consider them traditional art forms, but rather objects. I have old vintage suitcases that are literally just full of all kinds of old maps, diaries, textbooks, and I'll just sit on the floor and open it up and start rummaging around to see what journey I want to go on. The source material itself plays a large role in the creation of the work. Depending on what the paper is made out of, it will indicate whether I can use something like encaustic or I need to use a different paint medium. If a paper is made from a high cotton or rag content, then it can absorb something like encaustic paint. Encaustic is a really old art form. It was used by the ancient Greeks and Egyptians. Encausticos literally means to burn in. So it's a combination of beeswax and damar resin and pigment, and you put it on when it's in its molten hot form, and it literally just soaks into the paper, which allows me to give the paper color, to bend it, to fold it, to shape it, and it helps from an archival standpoint. Some papers, particularly some of the newer ones, are coated with a plastic. Those are not good candidates for encaustic. So for those, I'll need to use something like acrylic. And typically those will become two-dimensional pieces that start by layering up pages of those old materials, adding paint, and then starting a dance of wearing it back, seeing what emerges from that sanding and scraping, and looking for shapes and lines to appear and to accentuate and to really bring out in the piece. And although the work is abstract, as it starts to unfold, there's a narrative that begins to reveal itself. The tricky part is trying to create some calm or order out of all of it. I love artwork that pulls you in from afar. And for me, that's usually color or movement. And then when you get close, there's just this whole other world going on, all these details, it's like a fantastical narrative. You're not quite sure what you're seeing. For me, a piece is exciting if every time I walk by it, I notice something new. That's how I know it's working.